Welcome back in, builders. This week we're taking a look at Late Age Piconye, Legacy of the Prester King. Piconye is a kingdom of little horned men located in a fabulous land. It was once subservient to Magnificent Ind, but when the Khans of Piconye defeated the sacred armies of Ind and killed the Prester King himself, the dominion of Ind was broken and the subservient tribes and kingdoms found themselves free of the yoke of Magnificent Kingdom. The little men of Piconye had never had a unified kingdom apart from Magnificent Ind and struggled to form a kingdom of their own. Heavily influenced by their masters, Piconye turned into a theocratic monarchy with priests, soldiers, and religious potentates ever present. But where Ind had hidden their virtue from the outside world, Piconye has instead turned itself outward in an attempt to spread the faith of the awakening God. This is one of our successor nations to Magnificent Ind, and a pretty unique and fun one at that. For our race, we are little horned men, and we prefer a heat scale of +1. Our military is small-sized infantry. We're all size 2. Our birds are size 3. We have bird knights, we have sacred infantry, and crossbowmen. For magic, we have okay astral, earth, and a little bit of fire, water, and nature. Mostly this goes up to about 2. For priests, we are powerful. We have 2 different holy 3s that are cap-only recruitables. Most of our commanders are priests, and every temple adds 1 to the sacred recruit limit. This means we can get a lot of sacred units. For scales and blesses, we get an order limit of +1, and we gain a bonus bless point. For buildings, we use the regular forts of the age, so up to citadels, and our temples are half price at 300. Pretty nice deal here. Site-wise, we have the Sublime Palace. This allows us to get the Prester King, and an Astral Pearl, and 1 Earth Gem. Our second site is the Cerulean Cathedral. This allows us to get the Pope, the Priest, the Cross Wielder, and the Baculite. This also gives an Astral Pearl and a Fire Gem. So 2 Astral Pearls, a Fire, and an Earth. Decent income, I will say. Units and Sacreds. For our lineup, we have a pretty decent lineup here, actually. Starting us off on our weekend is the Piconye Militia. I don't see a reason that you would particularly want to get these. 6 gold, 2 resources, 9 recruitment points. They are stealthy 40, and they are gluttons. Gluttons is something that's going to be common on all of our troops. That makes us eat food as if we are larger. So we eat as if we are a size 3, aka human sized. He wields a pitchfork that he's not very good with and has a leather cuirass and a cap. Pretty much unusable. Next, we have Piconye Slingers. These are 6 gold, 3 resources, 9 recruitment points. They have a dagger that they're pretty okay with, although note as a race, we are pretty weak. 5 HP, 6 strength. Ouch. And we also have the sling. These actually have a vague use. Maybe a few of these out front as a screen for our crossbowmen could be useful. That way anyone targeting archers might be shooting at these and not our better troops. Otherwise, I don't see much use here. 10 blunt damage already would be iffy. 8 blunt damage is even more iffy. Next, we have the Piconye Crossbowmen. Now we're into the good stuff. 7 gold, 14 resources, 11 recruitment points, 5 HP, 6 strength. Ouch. Also note, our map move is only 6, so we are never going to be zipping around the map. Morale is 8 on this unit. We have good magic resistance and actually pretty okay protection. 14 protection with a plate cuirass and an iron cap. That's pretty good. I'd say that's probably about the sweet point. Either you want really, really cheap crossbows, or you want crossbows that can at least filter out non-crossbow damage, and this is about right for that. 14 resources isn't really going to break the bank, so that's all right. Do note, still have that bad morale. They have a dagger to defend themselves. 11 attack is all right. The 8 damage is not. And they have a crossbow. It is a normal crossbow, fires every 2 rounds, gives you an extra 2 precision, has the 12 ammo. So 13 attack is pretty good. That's above humans. And the 10 piercing damage is fine for a crossbow. Overall, very, very good group. The price makes them pretty massable. These guys are going to do a lot of work for you. As you can see, the low strength is really going to make us suffer in melee and struggle to kill units of the age. Next, we have the Piconye Spearman. The Piconye Spearman is 7 gold, 14 resources, 11 recruitment points. We're up to 6 HP with 6 strength. We're up to 9 morale. We have a spear. We are okay with it, but it is only 9 piercing damage. 16 is kind of the ideal, I would say, for late age, and this does not meet that 16, and it is pretty significantly not meeting it. Now, on the upside, we do have 15 defense and a length 3, so we have a chance to get repels. So if you just want to hold, that would be all right. We are armored in a plate cuirass, an iron cap, and we have a shield. All fine. This is fine gear. That gives us 14 on the body, so a little bit down, but remember, we have high defense, and at size 2, there's going to be 5 of us in a square, so that's okay. That's all right. Next up, we have the Piconye Soldier. 8 gold, 15 resources, 14 recruitment points, 6 HP, 6 strength again, up to 10 morale. We are equipped with a short sword that has 12 attack with 11 piercing slashing damage. Again, that is not that 16 that I'm really looking for, but at least here, if we could get the Strength of Giants buff onto ourselves, which we quite are incentivized to do, this would actually be like 15. That's close enough that that wouldn't be too bad. But without any enhancement, this is pretty iffy. Equipped with the same gear as we saw previously. Next up, we have the Piconye Defender. 9 gold, 19 resources, 17 recruitment points. We're up to 7 HP and 7 strength. He's been hitting those protein shakes. 12 attack with the short sword and 12 slashing piercing damage is all right. And with Strength of Giants, that is actually up to par. He is armored with a plate halberd, a iron cap, and a tower shield, giving him pretty good defense here. 16 on the head, 18 on the body, plus you can get 16 if you block with your tower shield. These are actually pretty good troops. Note, this does include the shield effect here on the parry, but 19 defense is really high. This is like elf levels of defense, and we have good protection to back it up. That's pretty nice. Now the downsides, 2 combat speed. 2. Most humans have 10 at least. These guys are incredibly slow. We are going to waddle into combat yeah, it is going to be really slow. 10 encumbrance. They're going to poop out really quickly. So those are 2 things that are relatively hard to deal with. This is not a sacred unit, so we can't do anything with that. So you're really going to be looking at least giving them strength, and you're pretty interested in upping their protection. If you wanted to design a pretender to help out, a relief spell would be super useful to keep these guys from being absolutely winded by the time, round 2 of fighting is over. And at combat speed 2, the lines are going to clash basically like a square or 2 in front of where you deploy. So be aware, and this isn't just a him thing. Combat speed 5, I think, is here's a 6, is kind of our common number. So just be aware that we do not move very far, nor do we move very fast. Next up, we have the Bird Knight. Very cool unit here. 25 gold, 15 resources, 39 recruitment points. So that is really high on recruitment points, but what do you get? 8 HP, 7 strength, 11 morale, all pretty good stats. He has a light lance that is obviously length 3, has 12 attack and 10 piercing damage. Remember, it's a lance, so you do get the charge bonus on the first hit, so that's all right. Armored in the plate cuirass, iron cap, and shield. And he is riding a warbird who's okay. 9 HP, 7 strength, 32 map move. This is one of the fastest units in the game, and it's flying 32 map move. It is an animal, so it only has 7 magic resist, but as far as animals go, that's actually all right. And he has a morale of 13. Combat speed is 4, but remember, this is going to fly, so you can get to the back lickety-split. That's not going to be a huge problem. These also have 2 attacks. We have a dive attack, 13 attack with 11 slashing, and talons, which is 9 attack with 8 piercing. Between those 2 attacks and the lance hit, these are actually pretty good for like an alpha strike. After that, though, they really struggle. A lot of times they'll land in the back, they'll kill a couple bodyguards, maybe a leader or 2, but if you don't wipe everything out on that initial land, then the problems start. More often than not, I would lose the birds in almost every engagement. These guys would really appreciate some buffs. The strength would really help that light lance out. Ethereal is something we can spam and would help our mounts out a lot. Otherwise, just other protection would really help them out. Even at base, though, these are nice. Our armies waddle around on the map. Map move of 4, map move of 6, map move of 6. You're not getting anywhere anytime soon. So if you're going to have reinforcements, they're probably going to have to be bird knights. Otherwise, you're moving one province at a time, and you're never going to catch up to your own army. So something to consider here, especially that high recruitment point cost. Next up, we have 3 sacreds. Starting us off, we have the cross wielder. Only can be recruited in the capital. Do remember, I want to show before we do that. Here's my capital in this test game, and let's see how many sacreds we can get. Let's do these guys. Yeah, look at that. That's all sacreds right there. 15 of them. Nobody, barring non-cap sacred recruitment, can get even close to this. And I have a relatively good cap here with relatively bad scales. So I could probably up these guys to probably get 10 more. Frankly, I could probably get 25 of these guys a turn. Pretty awesome, pretty unique in that aspect. That being said, cross wielder is one of the best sacred range units, I would say. Why? They're size 2, so they're easy to buff with all the things you'd like to buff with. Fire arrow, serpent arrows, strength of giants, wind guide, or I guess it'd be aim. All of that makes these guys very, very buffable in addition to being sacred. 10 gold, 14 resources, 14 recruitment points. As you saw, once you get rolling, you could get a lot of these guys out. Has a dagger that he's pretty good with, but he's weak. Has the standard crossbow that we looked at before. That's fine. Armored in the same plate cuirass and iron cap. If you do not take a blessing that particularly helps cross wielders, I would say get the regular crossbow. It's essentially the same thing minus sacred, and you can get one of your other melee sacreds. If you want to meme it up and you want to do some sort of ranged crossbow build, I think this is a good chassis to do it on. The one I will specifically say would be weapons of mist are kind of interesting on ranged units, because even if you miss the unit you're firing at, you leave the mist cloud behind. Maybe that could be decent. The one downside here would be it's a crossbow, so it only fires every other round, where if you're going to do cloud things, you probably want it on a normal bow just to get the cloud spreading faster, but just food for thought there. Next, we have the soldier priest. The soldier priest is 11 gold, 15 resources, 17 recruitment points, 7 HP, 7 strength, good morale, good magic resistance. He is, of course, sacred, is wielding a short sword, and he's quite good with it at 13 attack. Armored in the same plate cuirass, iron cap, and shield. This is a fine sacred. The downside to him is what's he going to do to kill something? 12 piercing slashing damage, even with a good attack, is not going to kill much. So you're really going to need some sort of bless that's going to allow these guys to win battles one way or the other. Now, again, as a size 2, you can fit 5 of these in a square. That's both a blessing and a curse. Easy to buff because you can hit 5 of them even with just an AoE 1 spell. That's great. However, the enemy can kill 5 of you with an AoE 1 spell. So there's something to be said about resistances. There's something to be said about making them able to actually kill something or get rid of something. They have 5 in a square, so anything that's area of effect, like heat auras, cold auras, fear, all of those things stack up a lot better than normal. A normal human, of course, you have 3 in a square. So we have, 2 more than that. That's a lot of extra stacking. Our third is the Baculite. This is a very interesting unit. 13 gold, 17 resources, 20 recruitment points, 8 strength, 8 HP, great morale at 12, good magic resistance, has a plate cuirass and an iron cap. That's pretty much our standard gear. And he's wielding a Baculus. Very interesting weapon. It's length 3, and he's very good with it. 14 attack. So right away, that's a pretty good repel weapon. Damage is blunt and magic, and it's 14. And it has the Bane of Heresy effect. That hits, when you hit something, you do 15 fatigue damage. That is armor piercing, doesn't add strength. So you just get the 15, but it only hits gods and sacred units in an AoE 1. Against another sacred, you can quite quickly put them to sleep. If you had 5 of these guys in a square hitting a god, that's going to be what, 50? That's going to be 75 fatigue in one turn. In one turn, you will put even the scariest combat gods to sleep relatively quickly. And if they don't kill you all off at the same time, they are never going to be allowed to wake up. You're just going to sleep them to the eternal night with these guys. In the early game, these guys really struggle if you don't have air shield, because they're going to get absolutely shot up. Our entire army is going to get absolutely shot up without air shield. We waddle at 5. That makes archers very good at getting a bead on us and shooting. And when I say archers, I really mean crossbows. And even our more defensive unit, this guy's probably all right at taking a crossbow bolt because he's got a tower shield and he has high protection. But anything beyond him, even just this sacred right here, 14 protection, let's say he gets hit in the body. So with a crossbow bolt, you're already down to 7 protection. And then you knock about 1 off of that. So let's call it 6. 6 protection versus a crossbow bolt. You're going to get absolutely chewed up. Absolutely chewed up. So just be aware of that. You need to have a plan of what you're going to do against crossbows. Going back to the Baculite, though, I do like these guys a lot. If you can get to melee, they have pretty good chances of being able to repel things. A lot of things in late age are not wielding spears at length 3. They have length 1 or 2 weapons. So that's actually pretty good. And if you're fighting sacreds, you can just put them to sleep and they will not go gently into the night, but you will quite enjoy it. Overall, a very interesting lineup. I struggle to call it good. It's different. It's not bad. It's just different. We have good crossbows that are pretty spammable. We have sacred crossbows if you want to take that route. We have heavily armored troops, but that are incredibly slow with really high encumbrance. Even this sacred has 7. That's quite high. He has 6 even without the shield. So you're not going to love grind combat, I think is what I'm getting at here. We also have the very interesting Bird Knight who can do a hold and attack rear. One thing to note, though, this isn't going to be the type of nation where your front line hits and then your flyers land in the back and kill the leadership. This is going to be the type where your front line waddles forward, your back line hits, and they win or lose the combat before your front line even makes engagement. So just be aware that you're going to have really high attrition on these Bird Knights, at least until you can start heavily buffing them. That being said, this is a pretty interesting lineup, relatively cheap for what you are. You have really good attack density, so that's another thing that is quite nice. I think a weapon bless would be quite usable, as are the auras, could be quite usable and interesting. Heroes, commanders, and prophets. I did not receive any heroes during my playtesting, and my mod doesn't show any. That doesn't necessarily mean there isn't one, but I did not see him. Assuming that's the case, because we like a little bit of order, that could be a sign to take some misfortune. Just food for thought there. Going up to our commanders, we start off with the Piconye Scout. This is an amazing scout. Yes, you pay 45 gold, which is a little bit of a premium, and 7 resources, but it's 1 recruitment point. For a scout that has a crossbow, that's vaguely interesting. Has 75 stealth, that's very stealthy. And he's on top of one of our warbirds who has the double attacks. That allows him to have map move 32. That's up there with like harpies. This is an incredibly good scout, and he's really hard to catch at 75 stealth. So great scout chassis here. Next, we have the Bird Knight Commander. The Bird Knight Commander is 110 gold, 15 resources, 1 recruitment point. Has the same gear as the Knights, which is a light lance, iron cap, plate cuirass, and a shield, and is riding the same bird. If you need to lead around your birds, this is a guy to do it. He has 100 leadership, and he flies at the same speed. Works perfectly fine for that function. Next, we have a Piconye Bishop. This is our priest level 1. He is 85 gold, 1 resource, 1 recruitment point, 8 HP, 7 strength, has leadership 50. In addition to being a priest level 1 and sacred, he is an Inquisitor. Inquisitor is very efficient at preaching away other faiths. Your priest level is doubled for this purpose. So he would count as a priest level 2 when you're preaching away enemy candles. Next, we have the Piconye Bishop General. This is our standard leader. 140 gold, 15 resources, 1 recruitment point, 7 HP strength. He has 100 leadership and 12 morale and 15 magic resistance. He himself is a priest level 1 and is sacred. He has the short sword and our standard plate gear. Overall, he's a fine leader. He has map move 8. Apparently, he's been jogging recently because most of our army has map move 6. Is that going to change anything? No, not really. 8's hardly ever going to let you move twice. I can't think of a circumstance where it would. Next, we have the Piconye Archbishop. This is our priest level 2. He is 155 gold. Other than Inquisitor, I'm not in love with this guy. He does have a baculus and a crown, but I don't think you're exactly thugging this guy. I don't think I would get this guy. I guess if you're going to go for a really big Inquisitor push, this guy is a priest level 2 with Inquisitor that you can get outside your capital. So I think that's his niche there. But that is a niche to be said. Next, we have the Piconye Sage. This is our low-end mage. 100 gold, 1 resource, 2 recruitment points. He has 7 HP, and I guess strength doesn't matter on our mages. However, do note, he is 45. Max age is 80. He is heading towards being old age. We'll talk more about that on the other mages we're going to look at. Low morale at 8. But he's 80 gold per year for 11 research. That's pretty good. That's nice and efficient. Guaranteed to get an earth, so you can always get your earth buffs on yourself at least. And has a 100% chance to get fire, water, astral, or nature. Unfortunately, earth plus any of these is not like exciting. We just aren't high enough in any pass to get the big stuff out. You can do some minor buffing with these guys, some research. The astral ones are nice for spamming body ethereal. Nature 1 is a fine path for combat. You can do plenty of stuff with that. The water ones could do a little bit of buffing. The fire ones are kind of just out there. Maybe some crafting on those guys. Yeah, they do have the adept researcher, which is what's really pushing them on that research ability. At least they're cheap. I'll give them that. 100 gold is not bad for what you get here. Double path, that's fine. Next, we have a very interesting mage. Piconye Sage Priest can be recruited outside of forts as well. That right there, let's take a second and talk about. So in this game, rather than rushing a second fort like I normally like to do, I'm just now getting this up. I'm on turn 18. It's been up for a couple turns. I rushed temples and labs in my cap circle. And every one of these is recruiting the Piconye Sage Priests. So the temple allows me to get another sacred. The lab allows me to get the priest. So this allows me to get actually a lot of early game mages out, more than you would get if you had to go the fort route. These guys are only 2 recruitment points. So even outside of a fort, they only are slow to recruit. So every other turn, you can get one of these guys. That's not bad. In addition, being in a fort does not turn off the recruitment. Sometimes that's a little iffy for a few nations. So these guys are decent. Now, 260 gold is a little pricey. What do you get? You're guaranteed Fire 1, Earth 1, Astral 1, Priest 1, and you have a 100% chance to get Fire, Water, Earth, Astral, or Nature. So you could get Fire 2, Earth 2, Astral 2, in addition to either Water or some Nature. Overall, these are all right. I would say these are consistent enough. Fire 2 is usable, Earth 2 is usable, Astral 2 is great. The rainbow ones that get the water or the nature are less usable, but perhaps they could join in as communion slaves and support your other casters, especially if you're focused on these 3 paths that the communion slave is guaranteed to have. In addition, remember, you can always do power the spheres with your commander, with the leader of the communion, and that will give you +1 to all your paths to the slaves, making them much more durable. Do note, you got to be careful. We only have 8 HP. It's pretty easy to burn out communions. Just be aware of that. They themselves also have 13 research for 104 gold a year, so still fine. Yeah, it's a little bit more, but this is a much more capable mage. So if you can eat the initial cost, it's 100 gold versus 260. That's quite a big price difference for the initial payment. But if you can eat that, I think this is just a straight up better mage than the regular sage. Pretty nice. Lots of options for buff spells, which is what we like to do. The big ones being attack and morale from fire, the temper armors, giant strength, weapons of sharpness from earth, and protection buffs, and body ethereal and twist fate from astral. Great buffing paths here. You can do a little bit of evocation, but I don't feel like we are really focused on that. A friendly fire incident with a AoE 1 spell is going to make you very sad, so just be aware of that. Also, these guys are 70 years old with a max age of 76. You're going to even recruit some of these guys who come in at old age. I had that happen in this game. So just be aware of that. Now we're starting to creep into maybe we need an unaging bless if you want to really focus on mages. Next, we have the Piconye Pope. This is a cap-only recruitment. The Pope is 245 gold, 5 resources, 2 recruitment points. So a fully 3 non-slow to recruit cap-only mage, or priest, let's call him. Now, the big thing here is we are a priest level 3 with Inquisitor. When you want to preach away an enemy candle, he counts as if he's a priest level 6. That is incredibly strong. That's incredibly strong. He has the baculus and a crown. He has a standard gluttony, but he's old, and he's quite old. He's 93 out of 80. That is a problem. You're going to get afflictions, and he's already so weak, he's going to wither away relatively quickly once those start piling up. But these and the guy we'll look at next do bring in kind of a niche. This is talked about all the time in Dom 6, the Offuscate Bless. It gives you stealth to sacred units. You have a stealthy, holy 3 Inquisitor. There is a decent chance you could snuff somebody out before they realize it. If you spent, let's say, 5 turns recruiting 5 of these, and then you went to someone's cap and the cap circle, and you started stealth preaching, they may not realize that it's happening. If you don't run with the candles showing, this is Control F to bring open the map filters, and I turn on Dominion candles and or income box, one of the two. You may not notice that because that could happen before even the end of year 1. You're focused on like trying to expand, and maybe you don't even notice that your Dominion all of a sudden is shrinking really strangely. And yeah, you can wipe them out. Late Age Mikland hates that. You could quite easily, if there was a Late Age Mikland in my game, I would be strongly tempted to recruit a couple early ones and a few extra scouts. And if they're even remotely close to me, I would probably rush a couple over there and just snuff them out. They probably won't notice. And even if they do, they only can do so much blood sacrifice for candles in the early game. Very deadly and hard, almost like a hard counter, frankly. And of course, we're talking with Offuscate Bless, right? So you had to take that to make this viable, but still very deadly. Finally, we have the Prester King. This is a cap only. 400 gold, 13 resources, 4 recruitment points. So he's slow to recruit, cap only. Has guaranteed Earth 1, Astral 2, Priest level 3, and 110% chance to get Fire, Water, Earth, Astral, Nature. This is kind of a, I don't even know what exactly he is. He has 50 leadership and 50 magic leadership. He is also old age. He is relatively old and has inspirational 3. So you can't have formations, but the units you have get a +2. I don't know about that. I really like formations. Our lines are already going to be so short, no pun intended there, because we fit 5 units to a square instead of 3, that not even being able to put them in a line makes that even worse. That being said, as a leader, he can give himself protection buffs, temper flesh, etc., body ethereal, twist fate. He can be pretty safe. And again, he's another priest level 3. Because you have these 2 units, and specifically the Pope, I think you really want to be cognizant of what smite spell or what word of power spell you're going to get. And I'll specifically call out the Astral one is range 100. Because we waddle so slowly, being able to deploy at the far back of the deployment zone and still hit things at 100 range with good precision is very interesting. Is it good? I'm not certain, but it's interesting. Also note that if you do take a different word of power, and that's based on your pretender's highest path, if there's a tie, the left one takes effect first. If let's say you get a range 31, that's pretty common. It's very hard to waddle forward and get in range. So just think about that when you're setting up your scripting. Who would I make my prophet? I think your prophet is either going to be your starting bishop general, or I think I would greatly consider just grabbing a pope. That would make you have a holy 4 inquisitor that can do fanaticism, which would really help out our relatively low morale army. So I think this guy's the winner. I think we get a relatively early one. It sucks he's old age if you don't take unaging, that he might just die of old age, but that's fine. It's all right. Otherwise, maybe consider a Bird Knight commander if you want to be able to fly and be able to claim thrones via that, or maybe even some stealth preaching via the scout. I don't love those normally, but at least here you have A, humongous map move, and B, 75 stealth. So he's going to be relatively hard to catch. I think that's something interesting. If you did go with a Prester King, do note that with that high astral, you could pretty easily get him to be able to teleport. So you'd have a teleporting Holy 4 that could be relatively interesting. And even without that, you could, with a little bit of work here, you can make a teleporting Holy 3 that can help you claim thrones. Because again, map move 6, you're going to be incredibly slow getting around this map. As for national items, we have no national items. As for national spells, all of ours are contained within Conjuration. Starting at Conjuration 3, we have Call Cyclops Tribe. This is an interesting one. It is Earth 2. It costs 9 Earth Gems. Remember, we have Earth 1 as an income. And you get 5+, and the number is 1 extra for every 2 levels. So you need to be Earth 4 to get an extra one. Cost 9 and you get Cyclops. I believe it's 5+ half level is the number that you get. These compare about equally for siege strength with ogres. So summon ogres you get at 2. It costs 7 gems and you only need Earth 1. You end up getting, I think, 1 extra ogre if you're summoning with a Earth 2. I think, but Cyclops are better chassis than ogres. And for only 2 extra gems, I think it's worthwhile. A, they could at least fight if they had to. And you would mainly be getting these for siege strength. That is something that we are going to struggle with a lot. A lot of our units have 7 or less strength. Siege strength is directly tied to strength. We are very bad at sieging. And remember, we're in late age, so we're talking citadels. It is very, very difficult to do that. I will also call out while we're here, I think, where are you at? Cave Grubs is what I'm looking for. Yeah, this is probably the best siege. These guys are very, very good at it. So if you can get to a cave, summon Cave Grubs. A full nice unit of these would really speed up your ability to siege citadels. If you don't have that available, I think the Cyclops is a good choice. Also at Conjuration 3, we get Herd of Elephants, Pride of Lions, Ambush of Tigers, and Herd of Buffalo. It is going to be pretty rare that we get a nature 2, but it could happen. If you get one, I strongly suggest forging a Thistle Mace. Of all these nature summons, tigers have dark or low light vision, so that could help you get underground. Elephants, I don't like. They're low morale, and we are very squishable. Herd of Buffaloes. Buffaloes are one of my favorite sacred animal, or excuse me, one of my favorite summonable animals, who should be sacred for some nations, but aren't. Because they are, you get a decent amount of them for what you pay. They are big enough to trample. They're not as big as elephants, but they're big enough to trample most things, and they berserk. So most of the time, they're not going to break and come back through you. They're going to go berserk and probably die, but at least they won't be friendly fire trampling. So I do like that quite a bit there. At Conjuration 4, we have Call Malik. These are the angel summons line. We'll look at them in a minute. I want to specifically call out here, Astral 2, we're guaranteed to be able to do. And we have a native 2 astral income. So these are actually pretty affordable. And I think you could thug these. I did a little bit of that during Magnificent Ind and in Middle Age. And I think the same thing applies here. This is actually a little bit better, though, because You could thug these guys and you could give them some bird knights, either just to land with them or maybe like 5 of them on bodyguard, just so that you're not being completely focus fired on your thug. I think that's pretty good. Next, at 6, we have Hashmal. At 7, we have Arel. This is a really nice one because it has healer. At 8, we have Ofan. And at 9, we have Merkava. Let's take a look at those chassis. So starting us off, Cyclops. These are just the loincloth wearing, great club, undisciplined, 22 strength, 4.8 seed strength is nothing to sniff at. Next, we have the other animals. I'm not going to talk about them too much. The buffalo is my favorite, like I mentioned. Size 6 is plenty big, has trample, has berserk, has decent morale. He's not going anywhere. Happy to see that. The tiger has dark vision, so he's good for going underground. I guess so does the lion, so kind of either or on that one, I suppose. Next, we have the Malik. The Malik, I think, is an okay chassis for a thug. Remember, we're talking 9 astral pearls. You get a priest who is sacred, so depending on your bless, that could be pretty good. Comes in with Awe 4. That's a pretty darn high Awe. 15 invulnerability is not going to cut it, so you're going to need to give him some armor. That being said, the invulnerability will stack with your armor, not 1-to-1, but does stack. So you can actually get into the mid-20s relatively easy, and that's plenty for a good thug. Comes in with shock resistance and fire resistance. Is a magic being, doesn't eat, is flying, has 60 stealth, spirit sight, and praise. Praise allows him to raise dominion by 1 per month up to his praise ability. So as they're thugging around, maybe you can get lucky and snuff out a candle or 2. Like I mentioned, I think these are actually worthwhile. I don't know if you could solo things with them, but 2 of them in a group is pretty good. And again, it's going to go back to what your blessing is. I will call out here fear or dread. Combos really well with awe and would make it so you don't necessarily even have to kill anything and you could get things to route with these guys. Next is the Hashmal. Priest level 2 has awe, has invulnerability, shock resist, fire resistance, magic being. They are ethereal flyers with a high fire shield at 10. And they are inquisitors. They have spirit sight and praise 5. Do note they don't have spirit form. So that means we actually could buff their protection. If you got, let's say, an iron skin or a stone skin on these guys, that's going to be hard to get rid of. The fire shield combined with ethereal and some protection would be pretty gross. And they have flame strike, which is armor piercing AoE 1 attack. That is fire and magic. Could be pretty interesting there. The Arel is, as mentioned, a high nature. I believe it is 4 astral and 1 nature to summon them in, so they break us into higher nature. Has good awe, has invulnerable. These are probably too precious for me to thug. I think I would reserve them as army casters. You could pump her up and let her cast relief. That's something our army would really appreciate. And she has healer 3, so a pretty good healer. We have pretty survivable troops once you get buffs up and running. And so being able to clear off afflictions is really appreciated. She has praise 6, so even higher on that. And next we have the Ofan. Again, super interesting. It's a priest level 3, magic being, has poison, fire, shock resist, has high awe at 6, is ethereal trampler. Now that's unfortunate. Ethereal nerfs your ability to trample, so that kind of sucks. But I think it works okay here because we have 11 fire shield. Note again, we don't have spirit form. So I think if you can, well, actually, even with 21 protection, you're probably fine. If you could buff that even higher, though, we will trample into things and then everything will swing at us and die via fire shield, not the trample damage. So one of the rare cases where an ethereal trampler actually might be all right. Might be all right. It's size 7, so not many things are going to be not trampleable by them. A couple of these guys hopping into the back would be pretty nasty. And again, they're going to have your blessing. So if you took fear, again, notice how that keeps coming up. You're trampling in, they're lighting people on fire. You have fear just roaming through their army. Could be pretty disgusting. Finally, we have the Chayot. The Chayot are big angels, astral 4, priest level 4, air 4, fire 4, earth 4 is the 4 different types. These shapeshift between those forms, and they come in with 4 Ophons each. So if you did get all the way through Conjuration, a pretty nice reward here. I do want to call out, though, you have to design your pretender to do a lot of this. We can do the Cyclops guaranteed, relatively sure. We have a chance of being able to do the animals. We're guaranteed the Malik. But once we move beyond those, the Hashmal, the best you could possibly hope for would be Astral 2 Fire 1. So you need 1 Astral booster. You can do that relatively easy natively. Aerial, though, your best you could do would be Astral 2 Nature 1. So you're going to have to get 2 Astral boosters to be able to get those. The Ophan, you are really stretching. The best you could probably hope for would be Astral 2 Fire 1. So you need 3 Astral and a Fire. That's going to be a lot of boosting. And the Merkava, again, it is 7 Astral, 3 Fire. You're looking at a pretender for that one. Outside of that, we are going to want to get Power of the Spheres, Light of the Northern Star, Summon Earth Power, Phoenix Power, all of those things out of Conjuration. In Alteration, Air Shield would be lovely, but we don't have native air. So that's something to, again, think about. Crossbows are going to absolutely chew us apart. We do have access to Fire and Earth, so we can do the alchemy spells. We can do the protection spells. We have access to low nature, which is enough for Eagle Eyes and some Bark Skin if you want to go that route. Other protection buffs are available here. I will call out Earth Meld is something that we can natively cast on our Earth 2 guys, and that would help hold things still so that we can punch them and get rid of them. And we're not too susceptible to having that hit us, although it'll happen sooner or later, I'm sure. Curse of Stones might help out. We can do Earth 2s who boost up to Earth 3s. So that would just help fatigue our enemies as much as we are being fatigued. Group Stone Skin would be great. Shatter, Maws of Earth. So all the Earth stuff that you normally do, you can still do here. In addition, at 3, I think is one of our best early game goals, Body Ethereal. We can hit 5 people per turn with a Body Ethereal buff. So that makes that very, very juicy on high defense, high protection, high attack density troops. They would really like Body Ethereal. Beyond that, I will call out, if you make your Pretender with some air, being able to do Arrow Ward would be a way that you could protect your army. So if you don't go with an Air Shield Bless, maybe you go Arrow Ward. That is Air Shield 80 on a size 120 plus. Arrow Fend at 7 is Air 4. Gives your entire army Air Shield, could be good. And if you go that high, you also can Fog Warriors. Again, just the more buffs we can get on our little dudes, the better they will be. Fog Warriors, Ethereal, let's say Stone Skin, that's going to be a really hard army to get rid of. Very, very hard. In Evocation, I think is one of the places we're not very interested in. We can do a lot of the little stuff, but we're never going to get beyond like 3 in Fire or Earth or Astral. That's about as high as we go. So we could Flare. Fireball would be okay, but man, you're going to feel those friendly fire incidents. You're going to be very sad when that happens. We can't even do Acid Bolt. We could do Magma Bolts. If you took some... Well, no, this doesn't actually even do fire, so... Yeah, those friendly fires are going to be really sad. It's going to be really sad. But that would be an okay spell. And we are going to have people who can definitely cast that. Poison Darts, of course. We're not going to be able to do a lot of these big things. We could have a couple Falling Fire casters. Or, of course, we can also Communion. So that's a way we could get higher in Evocation. Hidden Flame could be an interesting one. AoE 1, 25 plus, armor negating. You magic resist for half. So most things, now note that's only magic beings, but if you're fighting magic beings, they're going to be very, very sad about that. In Construction, I think you are very interested in getting up to Legions of Steel. This would be a little bit of work because the best we can really hope for is an Earth 2, and then he Earth powers to 3, and then spends 2 gems to cast it. That being said, totally worthwhile. 3 protection on all armor takes our troops up to very nice protection. Yeah, we're still not going to be able to kill much, but at least we're not going to die also. Beyond that, I think that you actually might be interested in things like Clockwork Soldiers here. These would make pretty good bodyguards. If you're getting assassinated especially, Assassination attempts go fast, so the high fatigue gain of Clockwork Soldiers won't matter much. And you get so many of these that 1 or 2 casts, and you could give, let's say, 2 bodyguards to every single person. And if you're really getting targeted, you could add a couple more. That could be a thing. Beyond that, of course, we would like Jars of Fire. We would like Thistle Maces if we get lucky and get a Nature 2. We would like Thug Gear for our Angels if we're heading that route. We also are a nation who we could get somebody to cast Golem Construction. Golems are really, really good thugs. They're large. They have Astral. I believe they need 1 booster and then they can teleport. So you have a teleporting thug chassis that could be absolutely disgusting. In enchantment, I think this is another one vying for high value on our nation. We get Strength of Giants. We get Ignite Arrows. We get bigger Strength of Giants. We get Earth Shatter Hammers. We have a chance to be able to stun things with our slashing attacks, which we have, or more likely Weapons of Sharpness. Weapons of Sharpness give slash or piercing weapons AP damage. So AP damage, remember, halves the protection. Now our piddly little, let's say, 11 piercing slashing weapons, well, now they're suddenly scary. If you have 20 protection, you now half that down to 10 and then take about 1 off for being the slashing attack. Now we can actually start hurting things with that. And the AoE on this is 1. Well, we have 5 dudes taking that buff. And every single Earth caster we get is going to be very valuable. We're going to probably want to make a lot of Earth boots just to up the number of Earth 2s who can boost into 3s and be able to cast those buffs. As we go up higher, the bigger versions of all those spells like Steel Slice Warriors, that may even be worth considering making a pretender for. I mean, it's that important to get these buffs out. Thunder Fend, of course, Soaring Army, entire battlefield, all friendly soldiers have the ability to fly. I think this is actually maybe a win condition if you build your army around this. If all of your humongous army of sacreds could just fly to the enemy and you wouldn't have to do the waddle thing, that totally changes the dynamics. This late in the game, people have probably countered your crossbows. Well, good luck countering my army of mist, weapons of sharpness, giant strength, flying midgets that will land in the back line and absolutely chop you apart. I think that's a very interesting thing on this nation. Thaumaturgy does bring in Battle Fury. We're actually pretty good with our attack values, but we would appreciate more attack and more morale, so I think that would be totally fine. In addition, this is where our communions unlock, and I think it's always worth, if you're going to go Thaum 1, go Thaum 2, and get Mindburn. Mindburn is just excellent, always hits. If you have a low magic resistance target, it's almost guaranteed damage. It can paralyze if you fail to kill things. It can be pretty good. I think that's really Iron Will's kind of whatever. Some of the search spells could be useful. Nature 2, if you luck into one guy, he can spam Harspec and be able to search some more for you. We are not a blood nation, so probably not going to get into that. So overall, I think we're looking at point buffing our troops a lot, and there's a strong consideration for air on one of our pretender, just because the utility that would bring to us would be super nice. Wind guided crossbow bolts, the flight, the army of mist, even early game, just aim would be nice. So I think there's a lot of value to be had there. Okay, let's bring it all together. Piconye is a successor nation of Magnificent Ind, and the one that's trying to imitate them probably the closest. We have incredibly slow army movement. Hence, I think you're interested in taking cold. If you don't have a nation that likes cold in your game, aka Vettenheim or Calum or Atlantis, I think you go cold. It doesn't change your one map move that you're only going to be able to get anyways, and it will hurt other people's map move, hopefully. So I think that is probably the way to go. Do note that does hit our income. We like heat 1. So if you went down to cold 1 or even cold 2, that's a bit of a hit on income. But I think that's so many design points. You could make that income up elsewhere. And the fact that that helps us defensively. Because without this, if somebody's moving, let's just say a couple provinces, they can outmaneuver you greatly. And you're going to struggle. You're never going to catch an army that doesn't want to get caught if they can move multiples and you can't. So I think that's a defensive pick on Piconye. In addition, we're looking at lots and lots of temples and lots of labs everywhere, which means we're going to have lots of Piconye Sage Priests. That makes it a good argument for maybe taking Unaging. Because this is our main combat mage and they're good combat mages, we can get them, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4. So every other turn I get 4 extra mages in addition to whatever I'm doing in my capital. And I'm only on turn 18. You could rush that out relatively quickly. So I think Unaging is very high value here. I also really like the idea of the Obfuscate Inquisitor preaching. That's not a strategy I like on most nations when people talk about it. But on this nation, with non-slow to recruit, Holy 3 Inquisitors, I think that's interesting. You could go wipe somebody out relatively quickly, especially a human who's not going to probably have the temple spam that the AI has and may not notice that they're getting wiped out. Having 6 priest levels will really be able to burn candles. Even if, like here where I'm sieging Arcocephale, even if you're not going to be able to dom kill them, being able to wipe all those candles out before you have to fight a god inside their capital, say, would be very valuable. Remember, that's 10 HP every single candle that they get, and getting rid of that would be very helpful for getting rid of those gods. That being said, I also think we appreciate scales because we do have okay scales troops that we're going to have to use, and we're going to need some scales to be able to afford our sacreds. If we trashed our scales for a Hellbless, we're not going to be able to afford to build all these sacreds that we're going to be able to get. Look at this. This is 20 sacreds, and I still have points left over. And in this game, I don't even have good scales. So I think there's something to be said there. Pretenders and scales. Piconye has +1 order and +1 bless point. So that's pretty nice. Remember, we do also prefer heat scale of +1 when we're looking around. Natively, we do start with that 1. So if you bomb that all the way down to cold 2, that's a lot of design points. Yeah, that's a lot of design points. From 190 here to 310, that is 120 design points that you can grab if you do decide to go the cold route. For chassis, we actually have a pretty good smattering here. We have a unique one here, the Arch Emperor. He's only 90 points. He is an Astral 1, and that's it. So if you're just looking at very cheap, he could do it. Although at that, I would probably just go Great Sage and be able to get the High Adept Researcher plus the Inspiring Researcher. Yeah, I think he's probably just the better chassis. We have the Great Enchantress. She gives us a Glamour Gem income, and that is something I value pretty highly in late age especially. Moving up to Dom 2, we have a lot of good expander chassis here. We have the Worm, if you want to get underwater. We have Virtue. I'm going to show a build off for that. You can definitely use the Bowls. You could get away with the Man-Eater. I think there's a build with the Solar Serpent that you could probably do. Dave is here. We love Dave. I think you can make something work with any of these ones that have some air. I think you can make something work. The Myrmidon, definitely with just a hard skin bless, can get out there and do some work. Hard skin takes him up to, I think, 23, plus a self buff takes him into plenty safe. And he has fear and he has berserk. So yeah, he's quite good. He really would appreciate regen, but you probably can't afford it if you take him. And note, he brings turmoil, so that's going to lower your order, but we have the +1. I don't think we go double order on this nation, so I think that's fine here. Yeah, he can do some work for you. We do have the Kamadarunu. I've never been able to find a build for this. It does have Awe, has Nature and Astral. Maybe there's something there. Gets 2 Buffalo. I like those. Phoenix, I've made several Phoenix builds, and I think we are going to be temple spamming very hard, and we have good Inquisitors to spread our Dominion. So his Dominion immortality, I think, is high value here. Yeah, I think he definitely do. If you go the heat version, he also has heat power if you don't go with cold, so that could be something useful. Snake, of course. I think you could even get away with a dragon on this nation. I don't love sloth, but again, I don't know if we can go full scales on this nation. We really do need a bless of some sort. So being able to only go to production 1, well, if you weren't going to go higher anyways, that's not a penalty. So that could be something of interest here if you were looking for an excuse to take a dragon. Moving up to the Dom 3s, we have the Great Archon. I think he's interesting. I don't think we actually need an expander on this nation, depending on what you take for your bless. But if you wanted one, he's utility incarnate, but that also makes him really hard to build. We have a lot of the kind of Egyptian themed gods and the Indian themed gods. Your mileage may vary on a lot of these. It's really going to depend on what bless you're looking for. Somebody pointed out on stream the other day, this tiger actually has slots. He can put on a crown and miscellaneous items and barding. So that's something kind of interesting. That's pretty unique. Odin, I think also they said has that. So there's a couple chassis that have mounts and have slots. Kind of interesting. Demi-Lich is the Demi-Lich. Your mileage may vary. Moving up to the Dom 4s, we have Baphomet. We have the Divine Glyph. Both of these are good chassis, depending on what you want. If these are the paths you want for your blessing, these are great choices, especially Divine Glyph. At only 110, you get 3 magic paths. That's the same price as a Great Sage. You could easily make this teleport if you cared, but we have Holy 3, so that's not overly important. As I mentioned earlier, your Word of Power, especially if you go with the Astral one. The Astral one has range 100, but that needs to be your highest set. So this would be relatively cheap to make Astral your highest. So that's just food for thought on that one. Statue of War does give you some random barbarians. I don't know if we care about that. Maybe that helps your early game expansion a little bit. Monument, Statue of Undead. None of these really do it for me. The Elephant Idol, I've never actually done a build that made him work. He's a size 10 trampler that's immune to like everything. It's hilarious, but I don't know if it's useful. Blood Fountain and Oracle. I will note for blesses, we have so much encumbrance on our sacreds. I don't know if we can swing a quickness buff. We don't have extra attacks, and we would tire ourselves out so fast. I don't think quickness really does it here. Let's take a look at a couple builds that I tried out. Okay, first build is going to be the Sign of Height. This is a Divine Glyph. My main goal here was to test out the Astral Word of Power. I took Arcane Finesse because that ties into that, and I took Solar Weapons just to try to give myself A, magic weapons on all my sacreds, and B, being able to have at least something that helped out with attacking. This is a very hard counter to Ghosty Boys if we're worried about those. It's not stellar, but then again, we're also not going to kill anything with our normal attacks, so at least having a second chance to do something might be relatively valuable. Here I took High Dominion. I don't think you need super High Dominion. 4 or 5 is probably fine. We have Inquisitors, we have high priest levels, and we're going to temple spam with half price temples, and we get extra sacreds for doing it. So you don't need this. This is just the way the points crumbled out. I went with some extra order and some extra production. This might have actually been too much production. I might have actually pushed that into order so I could get more Bird Knights out. The production never seemed to be my choke point. On this one, I did just take the standard here. You could drop this to cold, and then that would give you some extra points to shuffle in here. That could be useful. Next, we have Champion of the Short Kings. This is a virtue. A chassis I don't love most of the time, but on this nation, he brings in the thing I want most, which is Air Shield. Air Shield and Righteous Wrath, and he's awake. If you're careful, he can go out and expand. He does have 25 invulnerability. That's the same as Dave. He would really like a piece of armor. Especially if you can get something that's not super encumbering for him. But beyond that, he can do it. He does come in with shock resist and fire resist. He is a magic being himself. He flies, has spirit sight. He's a combat caster. With him, I do think it might be worthwhile going into evocation just to get one of the short range spells for, in this case, either air or fire. So he has a spell he can cast in AoE, because otherwise all he has is the flambeau. A good weapon, but not enough AoE, I think, especially for a chassis that doesn't have fear. But this did work. You can definitely do it. There's some nuance to it, but very doable. Also, he's a flying chassis with good leadership. He could bring some bird knights with him, maybe as lance catchers or something like that. So just another use case there. Next, I have two different glamour witches here. I have Mask. This was the Obfuscate build. So I went Obfuscate and Unaging. So this is really focused in on our mages and perhaps being able to get a stealthy Dom kill. This was fine. She works. One benefit she does have, high glamour and some nature, means that we could do Fey Knights, and we would get Unseelie Fey Knights from the cold. So we're very interested on this build in getting at least one forest that we can put infrastructure in and have her summon in the different Fey summons at bare minimum. So worked okay. This gives us one glamour gem income. We would sure hope that we can find one more somewhere. The Obfuscate here gives you stealth plus 40. So she'll be stealthy. So that is something of note. If you're site searching or even at your summoning site, they won't hopefully be able to see that she's there. Makes it just ever so slightly safer for her. And finally, we have the Fog Witch. This is probably my favorite version. She has Air Shield and Dread. Dread is really, really good. Because we can have 5 Sacreds in a square, that is a lot of overlapping fear auras. And between that and Air Shield, once I got the ball rolling, my Sacreds were pretty darn safe. They didn't have to survive very many rounds in combat before the enemy would just rout. And the Air Shield helped not only me not die while I'm waddling forward to the enemy, but once the lines clashed, my own crossbows were not killing me, which otherwise could be a bit of a problem. She also is a bit more of a rainbow mage than the other ones that we've seen. I think if I may even redo her. Earth 2 is really nice because it lets her summon Earth power on herself, but we could mimic that with Earth Boots. We have Earth 2s natively on the nation. I think I would give her Nature 2 so that she can guaranteed build a Thistle Mace. I think that is a change I would probably make on this chassis. That being said, her main focus is going to be Unseelies or other Fey things, and being a combat caster once you have some big air spells. Arrowfiend and the like, Wind Guide and the like, Fog Warriors, Army Flying, Protection from Lightning, all of those are great, and I think that any of those would be good for your army. Wind-guided flaming arrows on massable crossbows, you could do relatively early. Yeah, it sucks that you're only doing 1 square at a time, but now you're doing 5 crossbows with that 1 square at a time. They're kind of like pygmies with crossbows instead of short bows. So the crossbow can actually hurt and the flaming arrow can actually hurt. So I think this is a pretty interesting one. I'm sure there's some other glamour stuff that would be good. It's just, will you find glamour gems to be able to fund it? So bit of a chance on that. But even if you never end up really doing much with glamour, I think the air alone is worthwhile. So those are a couple builds I worked on and I thought were pretty cool. I think any of those would be fun to play, especially the Obfuscate one in multiplayer. Even if they know what you're trying to do, they have to put so many resources into trying to patrol you out. You just walk away. And the second they decide to leave, you just walk right back in. So that can be really frustrating to try to get rid of them. That can be very difficult. And we have Astral, so we don't have to worry about getting mine hunted out. And if you have the Obfuscate, we can bring one of our Sage Priests with us to have mobile mind hunt protection, which is kind of interesting. All right. Well, in conclusion, Piconye is a very unique nation that is very fun to play. I think there's a couple different ways you can take. Lots of different pretenders that are pretty interesting. Overall, a great addition to Dominions. I'm happy to finally be playing one of the new nations again. I've kind of been saving these and wanting to savor them a little bit before I covered them. If you enjoyed this one, don't forget to leave a like on the video. That helps me out an absolute ton. If you're not a subscriber, I hope today has earned your subscription. The Short Kings need your support, and you can do that here on this channel. If you'd like to go above and beyond, you can always leave a super thanks on a VOD. You can join me live for a super chat, or consider becoming a member of the channel. As a member of the channel, you get early access to videos I'm working on, such as this, In addition, you can tie your Discord in with your YouTube account and gain access to the file channel where I have things like the random island maps that we played on before that you can nab and play on yourself. If you'd like to support the channel in another way, you also could consider joining as a Patreon. As a Patreon, you get the Discord benefit, but otherwise I consider that a tip jar. Either way, thank you for hanging out and checking out the Short King Piconye. I hope to see you guys on stream. Let me know what other crazy blesses you've come up with for these guys. I think they are pretty cool and pretty flexible having so many different sacreds. All right, builders, take care. I'll see you in the Holy Land.